Oh, here you go. Okay, it wasn't screwed up. The format for this meeting is a 10-minute speaker, our secretary's announcement, and a coffee and snack break, and our main speaker. Our first speaker for tonight is Jane.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jane, and I am an alcoholic. I want to thank Jan for asking me to speak tonight, and welcome to all the newcomers. I hope that you hear something that keeps you coming back. Sorry, I get really nervous, so I'm not the best speaker in the world. Jan says it's only 10 minutes, so don't worry about it. But my sobriety date is May 15th, 1988, and I didn't think I was an alcoholic, but I came into this program because I was dating somebody who was dealing outside issues, and I was at his house every weekend, and I had an 8-year-old daughter. And, you know, the party was fun for a while, and then the room got small, and the hangers-on were the only ones left, and, you know, weird nicknames like Doghouse and guys running around with guns under their jackets, and you know, there was rumors that the cops were watching the house, and I just, you know, but the straw that broke the camel's back was, you know, he was hiding the drugs from me and telling me they were gone, and, you know, partying after I went to sleep. And so he had a problem and he needed to get sober. So I was working for a gentleman that his wife did an intervention. Back in the 80s, that was a big thing. They did interventions. They had the hospitals had care centers and 30-day programs, and he had just gone through. Oh, I didn't even look at the time. I'm hoping to keep it short. Okay, hit me at 5. Yeah, and so he introduced me to the woman who handled the interventions. Her name was, oh my God, that's what happens. I get nervous. And Lucille. She was very kind. She didn't call me out as an alcoholic. I wasn't willing to accept that at that point, but she handed me the 20 questions, and I answered 12 of them yes, and thought it was funny at the time, you know. But she pointed out that I could lose my daughter if the house ever got raided. So I decided that was not a good idea to be there anymore. And until he got sober, I wasn't going to be around. And he agreed, and so went into treatment. And like a good Al-Anon, I went to meetings with him to make sure that he went. And, you know, probably about 3 months in, he decided that food and video games was his higher power, and he left, and I stayed. Lucille was amazing. She hooked me up with some commitment right away. I used to drive from the treatment center. I used to drive people to the meetings. And if you're new, get a commitment. It makes you show up when you don't want to show up. And I had a really hard time. I was very shy and very insecure, and so if I didn't have that commitment, I think I could have talked myself out of every meeting that I went to. And coming back, you know, and I say that I wasn't willing to accept that I was an alcoholic, but, you know, from the time I was 14, the first time I picked up, I, you know, wanted to feel different. I was drinking to get out of my skin, and of course overshot the mark. And every time I drank from that point on, I overshot the mark every single time. You know, in chapter 3, more about alcoholism, you know, they talk about all those things that we tried to do. I tried them all, but not because I wanted to quit drinking, but because I wanted to control the drinking. So, but eventually, you know, you come to enough meetings, you hear enough that you can relate to and understand, you know, it changed for me, and then I realized that I belonged here. I still didn't share. I sat in the back of the room. I think I took a chip at 6 months, but I kept showing up. I didn't have anything else. There was this hole in my gut, and I was miserable, and I didn't know what else to do, so I just kept showing up. And thank you. I got cornered by a guy that wanted me to lead the meeting, and I said yes. I don't know why, but, that was the one thing that I did. My sponsor always said, never turn down an AA request. And to the best of my ability, I really adhere to that. I said yes. I don't even know what I said. It probably was very incoherent, but something changed inside of me, and I realized I belonged here and that I earned my seat. So I started going. I didn't start going to more meetings, but I got convinced by a guy that I know. He had a meeting that was closer to my home, tricked me into going. He said he was going to show up. I showed up. He did not, but that meeting was amazing. It was this intimate, small meeting where I met my husband, there's, it just, I felt like I was at home, and it ended up becoming my home group. I was on my way out the door, and a woman stepped in my path and introduced herself and invited me to coffee, and I said yes. And she ended up becoming my sponsor, and I started digging into the steps. She took me straight into the book. I started working the steps, and, that's when my life really changed. That's when, you have, I think of the steps 1 through 3 as the wake-up steps, and that's your foundation. That's where you build that relationship with your higher power, where you turn your life over. You can't do it, let him do it. And your higher power can be anything, it doesn't have to be God. It can be, I had a woman that she picked the Beacons truck, but it showed up every time she needed a reassurance. That truck would drive by, and she finally, resigned herself that there was something greater than herself at work in her recovery. So, and then 4 through 9, these are the makeup steps. Where you clean house, you clean up, and that's where the real changes happen, where we can look people in the eye. We get rid of all the resentments, the anger, that bag that we've been carrying on our shoulder all these years. I never dealt with anything. I didn't know how to deal with anything. And then, 10, 11, and 12, I think the foundation, and then 4 through 9 are the walls and the roof and the, windows. And then 10, 11, and 12, when we continue to take that personal inventory and we get that relationship with our higher power, and we nurture it and let it grow, and then we turn around and we give it away. Those are the embellishments, the rugs, the carpet, the things on the wall, the trinkets, the good stuff in life. And, I said I met my husband in the program. We were really young, but we just, we both knew that the program had to come first. That was, I went to go talk to him about it, and he wanted to talk to me about the same thing. And so I knew that I was in the right situation. It was the first healthy relationship I ever had. And we have 3 beautiful children. We've got 6 grandkids. And, that's the good stuff but the work comes first. And that's what we said to each other that day. Our program comes first. We're not holding hands and snuggling in the corner at the meeting. We're here to get sober. We're here. It was too important to me to have that recovery, and he was feeling the same. So, so if you're new, stick around, get a commitment, dig in, both feet in, and, and your life will change, and it'll be amazing. So. That's it, right? All right. 10 minutes. Woo.
Our 12 traditions are as important to AA unity and progress as are the 12 steps to recovery. Tonight I have asked Pebbles to read the 12 traditions while we silently observe the 7th tradition. If you have any core cards to be signed, please place them in the basket and pick them up at the podium after the meeting.
Thank you. I'm Pebbles. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, everyone. Number one, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. Two, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. Four, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting the groups of AA as a whole. Five, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6, an AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relation policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. And 12, anonymity is a spiritual foundation of all our tradition, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Secretary's announcements.
Hi, I'm Andy, your alcoholic substitute secretary pro tem. Standing in for Marianne tonight. Now I need to find the secretary's announcements. Here we go. Welcome to the Sanctuary Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. In naming our meeting Sanctuary, we mean it to be a safe place, a retreat, and a refuge where we can each personally observe the 11th tradition. Our group endeavors to provide a safe meeting place for all attendees and encourages each person here to contribute to fostering a secure and welcoming environment in which our meeting can take place. Therefore, we ask that group members and others refrain from any behavior which might compromise another person's safety. This direction is suggested by General Service Office. At the end of the meeting, the speakers will be up front. Please line up to my right to thank them. Smoking is not allowed in Manhattan Beach. Therefore, this is a non-smoking meeting. We remind everybody that we are guests at this location, and we've been at this location for 37 years, so we don't want to lose our venue. So please don't smoke on the premises. You can smoke on the sidewalk, and hopefully you won't get arrested by the Manhattan Beach Police Department at your own risk. Or you can get in your car, close the windows, and smoke there, and you can really get a lot of nicotine. Okay, please keep the noise down and respect for the neighbors. The gates will be closed and locked by 9:30, if not sooner. As soon as we have cleaned up, we lock up. If you go to fellowship after the meeting, please be sure to move your car out of the parking lot, which is actually the playground here, because if not, your car will be locked in, and you'll have to go to Mass tomorrow morning to get it. Court cards will be signed and picked up after the meeting on the piano in the basket. It takes a lot of people to make this meeting happen. At this time, I would like to ask everyone who participates in service to this meeting to please raise their hand. Yeah. Thank you so much. You are much appreciated. All right, now there's another page of this. Hold on. Here we go. We now have a literature. Do we have a literature commitment covered? Okay, that's an open commitment, a good commitment for a newcomer. I'll make it tonight. The literature is attractively arranged on the table next to the snacks. So during the break and after the meeting, please help yourself. If you need a big book, don't leave here without one, because we have plenty. And we have a grapevine announcement. Is our grapevine?
Hi, I'm Morgana, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Morgana.
This is the Grapevine. It is a meeting in print form, and you can buy it online at grapevine.org for $36 a year. Or you can get a digital copy for $29.99 a year. And they have jokes in here. Would everyone like to hear a joke?
Joke!
Great. Why did the AA members start a comedy club?
Why?
To joke about life's ups and downs.
And other scintillatingly good jokes like that in every issue of the Grapevine. Okay. Audio. Well, Chris isn't here tonight. Should I make the audio announcement? Okay. We record the entire meeting, both speakers and our audio maven, who was Carly tonight. We'll put that on Facebook and send you a link. This is a private link. It's not It's not public. It's private. If you want to get a copy of the recording of the audio, then sign up on the iPad that's on Carly's desk to the right with your email, and it'll be emailed to you.
Also, it's YouTube, not Facebook.
Okay, YouTube. YouTube, Facebook, that social media stuff. Okay. There is a CSR report tonight. From me, I'm the CSR. Hi, I'm Andy, your Central Service representative. I went to the intergroup meeting last Tuesday, and the main thing that I want to report to you is we have a special event coming up, a comedy show, speaking of alcoholic comics. There's going to be a comedy show on April 4th, okay? Four sober comedians. It should be a fun event. It's going to be held at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church on PCH and Avenue D. You can buy tickets at the door or through the All South Bay Central Office website. So that's coming up in 4 weeks. I would like to thank Dylan for leading tonight's meeting. Good job. And Jane, who I've known for years and years, for a great 10-minute pitch. Thank you, Jane. We do not celebrate birthdays at this meeting. However, we do honor them by asking those people observing their AA anniversary to please stand, starting on my left, declaring their name and the number of years sober. Any birthdays? Well, keep coming back. We'll have some next week. We're dark. That's right. We're dark next week. Don't show up Go to Torrance Memorial next week. Okay, we'd like to welcome the newcomers who identified themselves, and especially those who did not. Out-of-town guests and our Al-Anons. When you hear the bell at the end of the break, please promptly take your seats, because we have a great pitch coming up by Jane's husband, Richard. And I want to hear all about the 13th step, you guys.
All right, take your seats. Take your seats. All right, serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now our main speaker will share his experience, strength, and hope with us. Please join me in welcoming Richard from here.
Hi, I'm Richard. I'm an alcoholic. I'm done. Okay. No.
Well done.
Wasn't my wife great tonight? Huh? So proud of her. I didn't know about this guns and the code names and all this other stuff going on, so that was really interesting to hear. I love to connect, right? That's, what I like about doing these kind of things, because it helps me improve my connection with other alcoholics. Not that I need that, because my sobriety date is April 2nd, 1990, and I'm so grateful for being part of this program. This program saved my life. And I just didn't stop drinking here. I began a whole new life here, and she's a big part of that life. So I get choked up thinking about how grateful I am for not just my sobriety, but also for the relationship that I have with her and what we built together as partners, and the family we built and the foundation we built. So before I get started, I think she touched on it a little bit, and I just want to expand on it because I think somebody wanted to hear a little bit about 13th step. We can talk about that a little bit later, but I want to try to stay in order of what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now, right? So, but before I start, I wanted to say something that is very important to me, and it's out of the 24-hour-a-day book on January 6th, and it reads, "Keeping sober is the most important thing in my life. The most important decision I ever made was my decision to give up drinking. I am convinced that my whole life depends on not taking that first drink. Nothing in the world is as important to me as my own sobriety. Everything I have, my whole life, depends on that one thing." And so I say that out loud, not just for me, but also for all the newcomers here, and also for the old-timers, because life gets busy. And very quickly it can happen that sobriety doesn't become our number one priority. I know that's been true for me and my sobriety, that I've made other things more important. Life gets busy, success comes, tragedies happen, and above all, I think the reason why we've been married, is it 33 years? I don't want to get this wrong. Am I in trouble? 1992, right? Yeah, so 33 years. And I think we can count on one hand how many arguments we've had. And she remembers every single one of them. And she doesn't let me get away with anything. And one of the big things about this is making my sobriety my number one priority is the most important thing to me. Some of you know Charles S., and he talks about keeping the main thing the main thing. And these are the kind of themes that permeate throughout my relationship with her and my relationship with people that are in my life that I love. And I have so many people that I love, and I know people that love me. And some of those men are in these room right now. Some of these women are in the room right now with me, and I'm really so grateful for that. If I run out of things to say or I bore you too much, I just wanted to let you know I have a little backup plan. One of the guys I sponsor is a magician. Some of you saw some of his tricks over here. Is Michael over there, Michael B. So I'm going to say the word Sasquatch, and if I say that word, you got to come up and say me, okay, Michael? Okay. All right. So you never will. That's what you were taught well. Okay. So I'm CIA, Catholic Irish alcoholic, or Catholic Irish American. Either way, it fits, right? I was born in Brooklyn, New York. My father was a bartender, and he liked to drink. All my uncles and aunts liked to drink. My mom's family side, they all loved to drink. My parents were high school sweethearts, got married, and got divorced when I was 4. Didn't work out so well. It's the alcohol, but they didn't blame it on the alcohol. They didn't really talk about the alcohol. But it just ended, and it ended when my mom was having an affair with a Jewish guy from Brighton Beach. Some of you know New York City, and you're Irish Catholic in Brooklyn, Sheepshead Bay, and now you're Brighton Beach Memoirs. So I grew up in a Jewish family, so this Irish Catholic kid. with a really loud, boisterous Jewish father who at 4 years old said, "Guess what? I'm your dad now. You're going to call me dad." And that's that's kind of how we grew up. And I'm a twin. And my twin is still unfortunately practicing out there, so I get to see a mirror image of what it would have been like for me if I would have stayed out there, which is very humbling for me. And it shows me a lot of humility. Yeah, a lot of humility. So at 4, my parents divorced, and we lived in Queens. So it's another borough in New York, and we lived in a place called Howard Beach. And I used to visit my dad on Sundays with my brother. And my dad was a bartender in Sheepshead Bay at a bar called Brennan's. And I can remember since I was like so young visiting him on Sundays, and he would sit us at a table at the bar, and I would see him belly up to the bar with his buddies. He wasn't working. He picked us up to be with us, but the way he was with us was through the bar. And so I wanted to grow up to be just like my dad. And that's what I aspired to be. So for as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to drink, even if it was for a social reason. So my childhood was very loosey-goosey. My Jewish stepfather, he was into a lot of shenanigans. He was a criminal. He lied, cheated, and stole, and he taught us how to do the same thing. And I had a real colorful life, and I didn't have a lot of restrictions in my life. So I got away with a lot. They also competed for my attention. So my brother and I got showered with a lot of gifts, and they're always competing for our attention. So by the time I was 8 years old, stopped seeing my dad because I got in a fight with stepmom, and for 10 years I didn't see my father because of that. So fast forward, we left at 11 years old, moved to South Florida, and that's where basically my drugs and alcohol started. When I was 11, 12 years old and it was hot and heavy, I had the full run. It's not like it is today where you walk down the block and where's my kid, right? Because when I grew up, you could be gone all day and nobody even worried about it. You know, you go out and go play in traffic during the summer, just come home. That's how I was raised. And my parents just wanted to make sure I got home at night, but other than that, it was game on all the time. So anywhere I could get a little weed, get a little booze, steal little Quaaludes out of the medicine cabinet, whatever I could get high, I always wanted to get high. I love to get high. I love to drink. And I would tell you, my story isn't about suicide. My story is not about, how bad it got. It got bad quick in the end, but for most of the time I was out there, from age 11 to, let's say, 28, I had fun. When I got in 1976 and when I was 15, 16, left Florida and we came cross country with no money in our pockets because my father could never keep a job, and we really lived hand to mouth everywhere we went. And all along that route, I was with my cousins, and we were just scamming and scheming and buying drugs all the way from Florida all the way to California. And by the time we got to California, we were living off of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because we had nothing. And the first thing I did when I got to California is I went to the bowling alley to go find some connections. So that's just how I always operated. I didn't know any other way to operate. And it was always about me, eat or be eaten. I didn't take any prisoners. I had a toolkit, what we call our character defects now, in these rooms. And it kept me alive. And I think my bottom for me through all the years of all this, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the drug log. I'm not going to try to impress anybody with all of that. Let's just say I didn't get here by accident, and this was the last place I wanted to be. And so my bottom came in the last 6 months of my drinking and using. I lost control of all the things I had control of. I thought I was in charge of all the people knocking on my window in the middle of the night to get something from me. I thought I had control of the whole situation, whether it was booze or cocaine or whatever the hell it was. And in the last 6 months, I did some things that I thought I would never do, especially hit the pipe. So my end was freebase and cocaine, and that brought me to my knees, emptied my bank account. I smoked up my 401k, and I hit a bottom. And it was almost a self-induced bottom, blew myself to bits. I had to lose everything to get this thing. So that was my bottom. In the end, I was living out of a storage room that I wasn't paying rent on. And I quit my job before I got fired. I was embezzling from them. And it was as bad as it could possibly get. So the information I didn't share with you yet, well, I'll share with you now, is that father who was a bartender, his marriage broke up when I was 4, and I hadn't seen for 10 years, had 11 years of sobriety in Alcoholics Anonymous at that time, when I was 28. And we had, since I was when we got together when I was 18, my only motivation to go to New York was to get drunk because I had a friend living in Manhattan. We were going to go party. And we partied. And I used him. And the first time that we saw each other after 10 years, we got drunk at the bar together. And that was drunk-to-drunk relationship that I had with my old man. And it was always drunk-to-drunk with my biological father. So I called him up. I said, Dad, I'm in trouble and I need help. And he said, okay, come on out, let's talk about it. Now, in those years from 18 to 28, if I ever visited, he'd always have beer in the refrigerator for me, my brother, and my brother-in-law. I drank Michelob, my brother drank Budweiser, and my brother-in-law drank Heineken's. He never stopped us from drinking, even though he was going to those meetings, you know. And I finally hit a bottom, and he flew me out. And I walked into his house from Brooklyn, and he went into a closet. And he went into this closet, and he bent down, and he pulled this box out where you would keep beer cans, those shallow boxes, you know, where the cans go. And it had grapevine in it. It had 20 stools and bottles, 24-hour a day, and it had third edition big book in it. He said, this has been waiting for you. And he handed me all these materials. And he took me to the meetings. And back then in 1989, when I started in September 89, was my first AA meeting. And back then, some of you have been around a while, you know we couldn't talk about drugs in Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Could not do it. They would basically bait you and kick you out of the room. It was mean. It was really effing mean. I don't know if we can curse in the church. I mean, this is my parish, so I got to be careful. So we went to meetings, and he took me to meetings in tough neighborhoods like Bedford-Stuyvesant. Was, you know, I was the only white guy in the room when I was going to newcomer meetings, and he taught me things like you get there early. He would make the coffee. Back then, you smoked in the meetings, empty the ashtrays, clean the ashtrays. He stayed after the meeting, and he'd throw me in these rooms all by myself. And that was the first time I realized that AA is colorblind. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter your color creed, your sexual orientation has nothing to do with it. We're just drunks trying to get well. And I got a really great realization on that. And I was so grateful for him for doing that for me. So during that time I was there, I went to go meet my brother in Lower Manhattan. He was a bond trader, my twin brother at the time. He had a really great job. He was living high in the hog, kind of like Bill Wilson. That's really his story. If he was here, that's his story. Right, Jane? So I go see what he's doing. He shows me around the office, and then I go downstairs, and I see a bar. It's got Corona bottle in the window. And I go in. I said, I'm from California. I love Corona. All of a sudden, he get a couple of shots, a couple of beers, and I don't know what happened, but I end up blackout drunk in the toilet with my head in the toilet, and my brother finds me. I don't even know how he finds me. He says, are you okay? Are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. I just need to, let loose. He picks me up. He punches me right in the mouth. Okay? There's some latent, stuff going on between twin brothers. Still exists today, by the way. I don't know if that's a thing with twins, but we still have this passive-aggressive relationship. So we're beating each other up. If any of you know where the Battery is in Lower Manhattan, I'm trying to throw him into the East River. I go get in the cab and go back to Brooklyn, and my old man takes a look at me. He says, go to bed, we'll start over tomorrow. That's Alcoholics Anonymous, And the next day we went to a meeting and another meeting and another meeting, and then this is pre-9/11, and he takes me to the airport. I'll never forget. He and my stepmother took me to the airport, and I waved, hey, see you later, thanks for everything. And once I see that they were gone, I went right to the bar, couple of shots, couple of beers. I could not stop drinking. I loved to drink. I did not want to stop drinking. I loved to drink. I loved the way it felt. I can still romanticize that sitting at this podium with you all these years later, 35 years. I still can feel that going down my throat. Tell me I don't have a problem with alcohol? I always have to remember that I did my allowance, So my first meetings in L.A. were at the Valley Club in a hole in the sky in the Nest. That's where I got sober. So in San Fernando Valley, I lived in the Valley. Back then, those were tough meetings, a lot of low-bottom drunks. And my ego was so big, I didn't think I belonged with these bikers and with these ex-cons. And man, my ego was so big. And I sat there, Jane talked about a little bit about she was scared to death to get on the podium. I'd sit there smoking cigarettes like this, looking up at the podium. There's this "we care" on the podium. And I'm looking up there, And I remember once at the 4 o'clock meeting at the Hole in the Sky Club when I had 9 months of sobriety, I had this small group of friends. And they said, "This guy's got 9 months." And I finally had to get up there on the podium and share. And that's when I realized that I was scared to death. So I just wanted to, bring up that fear thing. Rewind back to my old man, right? Because this is an important thing for me that I want to share about him. Is that about 12 months into sobriety for me, he got diagnosed with level 4 lung cancer, had 6 weeks to live. He smoked 4 packs a day. And, back then I said, "You're going to smoke, you're going to drink." He said, "We're going to smoke. We're not going to drink," right? And I was a smoker back then, too. And he calls me up and he says, pager, payphone. Some of you don't know what a pager is, but, I'm on the payphone, never forget where I was. And he said, "I want to go out." So I'm just going to toss, you're just going to go party. And I'm here with a year in my head saying, I would effing go out. I would totally go out. You got 6 months to live it up. And I watched him call his sponsor and get through those 6 weeks, get his affairs in order, and die sober. In 1 year of sobriety that I had with him, and all the years he wasn't a parent to me and I wasn't a son to him, the relationship we ended up having in the end was one of the most important relationships I ever had in my life, to this day. And he's a big foundation of my higher power today. Still, every day I think about, what would Dad do? He taught me so much as an alcoholic. In Thanksgiving, before he died in January, and Thanksgiving, I went to see him and we did a 5th step together. I had some things I needed to say, he had some things he needed to say. And we didn't get anywhere near what we wanted, but we got closure. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. We see these steps on the wall and we talk about, doing the steps. He showed me how to actually live those steps and be able to move on. And when he passed away a week before we got married. Jane never even met my father. And he said to me, and we made our peace, he said, "If you're going to get married close to the wedding, then what I want to tell you is you don't need to come here. You don't have the resources. We've made our peace. You don't have to explain it to anybody." And that was drunk to drunk. That wasn't father to son. And we got married, and and that's another conversation. But I just wanted to say that there are people that have touched my life. We talk about higher power in God, and Jane's touched on that too. My higher power has transformed me in so many ways is unbelievable, right? First admitting the powerlessness over alcohol, that my life's unmanageable by me. I came to believe that after many, many slips and really trying to do it my way, and it didn't work. And then coming to believe in the second step, and coming to believe that there's a higher power out there and it's not me. That came rushing through me in so many ways with him. And then he just set such a great example for me. And then the marriage, I might as well talk about that now since we're on the topic, right? You don't mind, Jane, do you? So we met in a different 12-step program, Narcotics Anonymous, Thursday night meeting, Wisdons and Agura. We were going to a convention at the Bonaventure, and we met, and it was, I don't know, it just happened, and we kept going. And one thing I just want to bring up about that decision, that was, I had no idea. Talk about 13th step. I was 9 months sober, and she had almost a year and a half, 2 years. So it's all her fault. Okay? What I love about my relationship with Jane is that she has the highest integrity of anybody I've met. This is the one person in my life that I trust. I don't trust anyone more than her. Our whole relationship is based on integrity. And so Jane mentioned she had an 8-year-old child. So Rachel came into my life when she was 11. And when we were about to get married, the three of us got together and it said, "I'm not just making a commitment to your mother, I'm making a commitment to you." And that I'm going to get this, I better get this right. That 11-year-old is now 45 years old. And she calls me Dad, and she always has called me Dad. And I kept my promise. That's Alcoholics Anonymous. The old Richard was too effing selfish to ever do that. I didn't know how to love anybody, how to care about anybody. She taught me that. I'm not responsible for her happiness. She's not responsible for mine. She's tough on me when I want her to sponsor me because I don't really want to be, sometimes I just don't want to do the work. And so I'll sit and cry in my beer, right? And she'll say, you need to go talk to somebody because I don't want to, and she'll just walk away. She don't want to fight. I like to fight. She doesn't like to fight, you know? And so that's kind of like, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now is that we've had this incredible life, And so a big part of, I think, my success in recovery is working with other alcoholics. I'd say I don't know that I'm a great circuit speaker. I don't know that that's the deal for me. But I think the service I give is that I'll do panels and I sponsor a lot of men. We work the steps, we read the book, we do the work. You don't do the work with me, it's okay. I don't get mad, I don't fire anybody. How soon you want to get well, My first sponsors fired me because I was drunk on the podium at the Hole in the Sky Club. That resentment kept me in the rooms. I said, I'm going to show that guy. I'm going to stay sober. So that he has no idea what that did for me. And I even warned him I don't want to read because, I just probably shouldn't read. And he fired me. The second one picked me. I didn't pick him. And he had a white Astro van. His name was Doug Haig. And his wife was my English teacher in high school, which is nuts, okay? And I wasn't a good kid in high school. And so I had him, Janie, 20 years? Who was with me? And he taught me 12-step work. He had a van that said, Yay for AA on the back of it. It's a little Astro van, and we'd go pick up wet drunks and bring them to meetings. There were treatment centers back then, but we weren't as reliant on that. I mean, it was a lot of people got sober in the rooms, and the central office, the phones were ringing off the hook, and we would go pick up wet drunks and bring them to rooms. So it was a lot different back then. A little bit about the steps. I mean, Jane said it. First three for me is my relationship with God, getting right with my higher power. My higher power today, because of my powerlessness and my admission, my powerlessness and my unmanageability, my coming to believe and my decision, my commitment to turn my will and my life over to higher power, has given me all kinds of outlets for that. The open-mindedness of it. I am a practicing Catholic. I just went through the sacraments a couple of years ago. But I'll go to Buddhist meditation meetings. I'll go to other recovery programs where I do meditation. I'm open to other types of religion. My sponsor, as you guys know, Bill C. is my sponsor. Bill S. in Connecticut, who did the writing of the big book, told me that I had to go get Bill C. if I was living in the South Bay. So I didn't even get to pick my sponsor here. I had to do what I was told. And so this is kind of how it is in Alcoholics Anonymous, because I don't have a lot of great ideas. So those first three is my relationship with God. And 3, 7, 11 is the foundation of my spirituality. I practice that. I have a discipline on that. Very important to me. Getting right with the world, 4 through 9. Jenny talked a lot about that. I BS my way through a 4-step, 5-step inventory. And I said, why am I not feeling better? Because I was negotiating. I wasn't being honest. I wasn't fearless and thorough. Because I wasn't really turning my will and my life over to the higher power. So I wasn't getting it. I wasn't feeling good, And once I had to be in enough pain to finally do that. After we're done with that, and 4 and 5, I go back, I hit my knees, and I do the 7-step prayer. I said, why am I not feeling anything? Because I wasn't willing to let go of my toolkit. I talked to you all about my toolkit. My character defects and my shortcomings kept me alive. I went to jail a lot, but I never went to prison. I'd get dressed up in a suit and tie, plead no contest, and the judge would toss me. I passed field sobriety test. The bar was a lot lower when is it lower or higher? Lower when I had to be at a sobriety test. Now you guys, I feel really sorry for you because that ain't easy. But I was cunning and baffling, and I thought these defects, why did I have to get rid of them? I just had to stop drinking, but I was miserable. And so once I finally realized that I had to ask God to remove those character defects on a daily basis, because the vultures are always on the bedpost, and I'm always operating with those that are still there, they're never going away. And I started to work that. 8 and 9, it's about making restitution. It's not about me saying I'm sorry. I have to go out there and I have to make the amends. I got to pay the money. I got to get out in front. You said stare them in the eye. I got to stare you in the eye and I got to say, this is what I did and I know it and I'm sorry for it, and is there anything else I can do to make it right? And then after that, I have to start living differently. On page 52, they talk about the bedevilments, right? I need to change my attitude. I need an attitude adjustment. It's my reaction to life that gets me in trouble every single time. It's never you, it's always me. And so making these amends and doing it thoroughly This is where transformation happens for me. And then my balancing act, between 10, 11, and 12, and 1 through 9 is the 9th step promises. So I'll read those promises. Now, if I'm not getting even one of those promises, there's work to do. I either got to go back and I got to work the steps again because I didn't do enough 10-step inventory, 11-step meditation, maybe working with others. Maybe I wasn't honest. But if I want those promises, I have to get to work. Either I'm not doing the daily maintenance or I haven't done a thorough 1 through 9. Today, I feel that through the work I've done and good sponsorship, that I live in 10, 11, and 12. To me, it's 90% of my program. I don't want to have to go back to 1 through 9 and work 1 through 12 and work the steps because I'm going to drink if I don't. And if I have my routines and I work in 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis, I don't have to do that. Now, I just got done with my sponsor, with a group of guys. I did an 18-week step study that was written by my other sponsor, And so it's just funny how small the world is. And that opens me up. And I actually did that 18-week because he said, well, I'm in a lot of fear about this, and that. He said, why don't you join me in this thing? And then when we got done and we wrapped it up at the coffee shop and we talked about what we got out of it and the things that we had to do, I said, I didn't think I needed this, but I actually did. And my sponsor's got, none of you know Bill C. He's got this big grin on his face. Yeah, I knew the whole time. And so it's, you get busted a lot in here. And as a result of doing this work, I have friendships. Like during COVID, we were in trouble. We didn't have meetings. Right, Brian? So I was the only one who knew how to use Zoom. So I set up a 7-day-a-week Zoom meeting, and I hosted it. And then we started, all the old guys taught them how to use Zoom. And now everybody uses Zoom. And I don't go to Zoom. I don't even go to Zoom anymore because I like the live meetings. But we did it. Charles and I put that together, and we had 80, 100 guys in the room, all South Bay guys mostly. And we did it 7 days a week. And I got to know a lot of you people. And when you're new, I moved around, lived in New York, 2010 to 2018. We moved to New York. We came back. Jane, I had to make a deal with Jane. She said, okay, you want to go back to LA? 2 things. 1, okay, we're not going back to the San Fernando Valley. Everything dies out there. Right, Jane? And 2, I'm not leaving my house in the Hudson Valley. We have a house in Woodstock in the Hudson Valley on the creek. It's beautiful. And she said, we're not losing that one. So I made that deal, and we ended up in Hermosa Beach, and what a blessing. We live by the Alano Club. We live 5 minutes from there. And I said, this is a God shot. And our life has been incredible. What I always do when I go to another town, I did it in New York and I did it here, you find someone who knows everybody, okay? And when you find that person who knows everybody, they introduce you to other people. So I picked Charles S. You guys know Charles, Charles. And he really helped me navigate the meetings. And most of the meetings I go to are men's meetings. So my home group is Saturday morning men's stag in Hermosa Beach at 8:30. Alan, the beach group on Sunday mornings at 10 o'clock, Brian. That's a home group for me. That's the only mixed meeting I typically go to during the week. But I usually have a book study, a step study, and one mixed meeting every week that I do. And it works for me. We used to have a meeting once a week that we go to. I would love to start that again. But the only time I attend the Jane meeting is the Surf and Sand on Sunday when I give her a cake. And she gives me a cake at the same meeting. And then I don't know how much time do I have left? 17 minutes? Okay, I might need a magic act over here. I might need the magic act. Okay, but no, it's okay. I'll keep going. I know what I want to talk about. Another thing that I'll talk a little bit more about the family. So my mom, she was an alcoholic that never got it. And Jane knows this, and she's fine about it. But she was the most important person in my life. I'm truly a mama's boy, and she passed away a couple of years ago. And she passed away over here at was it Kensington, right? And when I was out there on my disease, I was living with her temporarily. And this is a crazy thing. I think I was talking to Palmdale I forget your name. And we were talking about forgiveness. I almost want to wear a T-shirt that says, forgive me already, Because we come in here and we get, 28 days, 88 days, And we think the world's just going to turn around and forgive us for everything. It takes time, slow sobriety. And my mom packed my Irish suitcases, and she put them out in front of the door, and she said, "You're not going to ruin my life." Now, my mom didn't want me to stop drinking. I was my mom's drinking buddy. We'd go out, we'd drink, we'd go to the Mexican, brunch on Sundays, and the bottomless champagne and the Cadillac margaritas and all that stuff. And she was going to miss her drinking buddy, but she wanted me to give up the drugs, but she didn't understand why I would ever have to give up the drinking. She just didn't get it. And then she kicked me out of the house because she found empty liquor bottles, and she found probably a base pipe or whatnot. And I was out the doors with over 90 days of sobriety. "You don't understand. I'm doing well. I don't care. You're out of here." And my goddaughter, who was there, she was maybe 2 years old, and she didn't know what was going on. And all these years later, when she was about to pass away, she said, "You're the only one I don't have to worry about." And if you were to ask her about Jane and I, she would say, "They're so boring." They're so effing boring, But the relationship that we had, even when you were new, I said, there was no negotiating. I told you, I said, "My parents are going to love you. They're going to take you out to the bars and the clubs. They love to go to the lounges on Ventura Boulevard and just sit there and listen to all the Frankie Valli, Frank Sinatra stuff, right? And you bring you into the bar, and they're going to love you, and then they're going to break your effing heart. But guess what? They're my family, and I'm never going to, don't make me choose you over them, because I won't." You know what I mean? And Jane was always good about that kind of stuff. As crazy as they were, to have that happen in the end, that she actually said that. Now, one of my brothers is very well off, the other one's a freaking train wreck. But to have that after all those years, that's Alcoholics Anonymous. It's just an amazing life that I have today. Today we have a lot of different things going on. Might as well, when I have some time on my hands, I might as well talk a little bit more about the kids. Rachel, who's my stepdaughter, but crazy thing is that Rachel didn't even know. My kids didn't even know that Rachel was my stepdaughter. And my youngest one had a resentment about that. Why didn't you ever tell me that Rachel was your stepdaughter and my half sister? He said, "Because it wasn't an issue." These things, and growing up in the program, it just didn't matter to us. We've gone through some difficulties. Talk about life not going according to plan. Our oldest daughter's stepdaughter, our middle son was adopted. He was Jane's nephew, and we pulled him out of the house and we brought him in and raised him. I'm a proud parent of a vet, and he's married now with 3 kids, and it's wonderful. And then talk about acceptance. My youngest made a decision to change her gender, and I had to go through that, and acceptance. That wasn't easy for me. And because of Alcoholics Anonymous and the men in the rooms, and the people in the rooms, I was able to get through all of that as well. So there's just so many examples of the goodness of what I've gotten in these rooms. So I am starting to run out of things to say. I don't know what we do from here, because there's 15 minutes left, and I don't know, Michael. I don't think we need to do a magic trick, but I don't know if it's inappropriate to do a little Q&A or anything, or whatever you like. Yeah, okay. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Well, you want to hear about the 13th step. Okay. Huh?
For Andy.
For Andy? Oh, for Andy. Well, I don't know what else I would say that would actually not be R-rated or worse, but against all the advice I was given, it all worked out. It's just been an incredible relationship that we've had, and I think I'm the one who had to grow up for that to happen. She was already mature beyond her time, but yeah. Go ahead, Michael. Ask me a question.
Could you address the feeling you got
That's a good question. There's nothing like, seeing someone succeed, in this program. And so that, when I had my first sponsee, it was like this huge responsibility, right? That if he would fail, then I would fail. And as time goes by and you sponsor enough people, you realize that the only one you're really keeping sober is yourself, right? And so when I lose people, and all the guys, I sponsor a bunch of guys, so you know my deal. If you go out, I'm not chasing you down. You have to have your own experience. There are people that I work the steps with, and they say, I've worked my steps thoroughly. Would you agree? I say, yeah, I agree with that. He said, but I feel like everything is good. I'm going to go out and try it again. I said, okay, good luck. We're here if you need us. And this will break your heart, Michael, right? If you get too attached. And so I've learned to be detached. And another thing I don't do is I don't tell people how to live their lives. I'm in no position to be a therapist and do that kind of thing. It's not something that I'm trained in. All I can do is listen and give my experience. And if I don't have that experience, then I'll point you in a different direction. So, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
How long have you guys been married, and what's the hardest part of being with one woman for that long? Don't answer. Don't answer.
See, this Q&A thing get me in trouble, Merrill.
You asked for it.
I know. It's interesting. It's like, for me, the biggest convincer for me in drinking and all kinds of bad behavior is I had my allowance. Everything that I have with her, I'll lose it in a second if I betray her. So we keep it lively, and I'm not going to get into detail on that, okay? But it's more than just sex. To put the S word out there, just to put it out there, it's a lot more than that. Our relationship has transcended that. I'm not going to get into all of that. That's for the men's meeting. I'm not going to do it here. But, I just like I had my allotment of drugs and alcohol, I have my allotment of that too. And I don't feel like I'm missing anything. But what I would be missing on is the kind of relationship I have with her. And so a lot of it is, are you new? Do you have are you relatively new?
Like 8 months.
8 months, so you're new. In fact, the recommendation that I didn't follow, and it's well known that you surely shouldn't be in a relationship within your first year of sobriety. But I broke those rules. In fact, when I met her, I was with somebody else, but she knew that, so it was okay, And but it worked out. But to answer your question, it's just not that important anymore, because that's a selfish instinct for me, that part. And you'll learn that when you're working with your sponsor. You'll start to see your part in that. In inventory, we have resentment, fear, and sex. There's 3 parts in the inventory if you do a deeper dive into the inventory. So you'll get there. And then if you want my number, we could talk about it offline, but I don't want to get into it here, So anyway. Okay. That's it. All right, thanks, guys. You get to go home early. What can I tell you? All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.